Hi, I'm Sean.
I'm Rhonda.
Hey, we're excited to be with you today. We want to talk about some things in communication, getting ready to communicate about a topic with your spouse.
So, the way we set up our conversation is critical. It's probably going to determine the trajectory, the outcome, the way it's going to flow. And so, if we can give some thought to the way we prepare before we start, instead of just throwing our beloved conversation out there, it's more likely to go well.
So, what better place to go than to God's Word to get the answers we need for how relationships work? We actually see in God's Word what we would say are patterns or pathways from how to go to that place.
So let's look at Psalm 143. And we're going to start with just verses 1 and 2 today to kind of see some patterns and pathways of some of the things that we're using with couples to help them get breakthrough in their communication, especially when you think about the sticky or difficult topics.
So when we read this verse, kind of look beyond what David is saying in his prayer to God and kind of see behind the scenes what this can mean for a couple that needs to talk to their spouse. So he starts off and he says, "Hear my prayer, O Lord, give ear to my supplications. In your faithfulness answer me, and in your righteousness. And enter not into judgment with your servant, for in your sight shall no man living be justified." Well, right off the bat, he's asking to be heard. So we need sometimes to say to our spouse, "I need you to hear what I've got to say."
You know, and if you look at this whole psalm, you're seeing there's a problem. And someone is going to another, which in here's a David God model, for help. In this case, we would say in a marriage, let's say a spouse is challenged with tone of voice, as an example.
Yeah.
It could be anything else. It could be a need to, that a person is struggling independently, individually, or it could be a struggle within the relationship. Something needs to be adjusted, and I need to talk to you about that.
So you're making a request, not a demand, which means the person listening to you, hearing you, has the right to decide. You're not saying you've got to do something. You're asking, would you do something? Would you please hear what I'm about to say?
And so this is a request for the conversation, and this is something that we see make a huge difference with couples. Instead of just blurting out a heart message randomly at an inopportune time possibly, we request, "I've got something I'd like to talk about. When is it a good time to share?"
Because, the point is you really want the attention of your spouse. You really want them to hear you. If they're doing something else, if they're looking out the window or looking at their phone, you don't really feel like you have their full attention. So you want to ask them, would you, attentively hear with an intent to respond without judging what I'm saying.
And this here in this verse includes the intent to actively respond, which I think is interesting.
Yeah.
Because when we as a speaker share something important to us, don't we need our spouse to position himself or herself? I'm going to respond to you. You are reaching out and I'm going to reach back.
Yeah. We want to make sure that we've got the right mindset in this and that we understand what the roles are. So if I'm the one bringing up an issue, that makes my spouse the one that's hearing the issue, and their specific roles, behaviors that are going to go along with if you're the one bringing up an issue versus if you're the one hearing.
And that's one of the benefits of setting up a conversation. We can put our speaker hat on or our listener hat on and do a great job of whatever role we're in.
Coming alongside to respond to our spouse appropriately in the moment is so important. That's kind of what he says when he says respond in your faithfulness and in your righteousness.
When we're faithful to the relationship, I'm there for you.
Yeah.
And you feel that I'm there for you.
Wow.
What creates the feeling of I'm there for you, I'm approachable, you could come to me. But also the righteousness side of I will make right choices for us. Not just right choices for me as an individual, but I care about what happens in the we area.
Protecting it. We've got to actively protect that joint union and the shared part of our lives. Also, we want to make sure that we're not being judgmental about what our spouse brings up. And what I mean by that is we don't need to think, because you don't think like me, then you're wrong. We want to allow our spouse to have a different perspective than ours and not say you're wrong because you think differently than me about something.
We don't want to judge and filter what's happening through our own agenda, through what I assume. If the spouse is the speaker, they kind of need to drive the conversational bus. If the listener's driving the bus, so to speak, we're not going to get to the destination the speaker initiated this conversation for. And I think it's important to notice, too, the coming alongside and loving response. We're asking for this attentiveness. And so when our speaker is sharing, we're all in. We're focused. We're listening. And our response is going to connect with what's presented.
Making a good connection where our spouse is the one that's hearing the request that I'm making. That's so important that we make sure that you're feeling heard and you're feeling understood because that you're the one making the request.
Right. And going back to the judgment side, it says in this verse, "For in your sight shall no man living be justified." And we know in God's eyes, it's a different situation than in our spouse's eyes. Yet, when we get judgmental, can we stand before our spouse? We have to be able to listen and say, you know what? You're a unique individual from me.
Yeah.
You are not my clone, and I'm not trying to make you my clone. You have a right to your own thoughts and feelings and ideas, and I want to validate and connect with that.
Being able to appreciate the difference is so great in a relationship because we don't think alike, and that is actually a strength for our relationship to value the difference, to be able to see a perspective that's not your own.
And I think, too, in this verse, you kind of got some heart things going on here. You got the faithfulness, the righteousness, the attentive listening, the giving ear, not being judgmental. This is some heart setup. Yeah. This isn't just a doing the rules right. This is a heart setup to be prepared to hear each other. So conversational setup.
It is. It's great, and it's something that from the beginning of your conversation can determine how successful the ending of it is.